Hello and welcome to Andy's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a nice piece of brisket using a dry rub. We're not going to be doing it in a smoker outside like we normally do. We're going to be trying an oven method, so we're going to see how that goes. In my dry rub that we're going to cover the brisket in, there is a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of sea salt, half a teaspoon of garlic granules, a teaspoon of barbecue powder, half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, a little pinch of Cajun seasoning, and a little bit of steak seasoning that I've prepared earlier. So the first step after making our dry rub is to completely cover every surface of the brisket. Now we want to rub it in, make sure we get a nice coverage. If there's anything missed, you're not going to lock in that nice seasoning. So I'm going to do this on all sides to massage it into every part of the meat. If you haven't made enough rubber, make sure to make a bit extra. Don't try and spare it over the whole surface, because all you're going to do is lose that beautiful flavour that we're trying to lock in. So once that's done, show a nice even coating all the way over. This will help lock in the flavour and produce a nice piece of brisket. So at this stage, once we've covered the meat completely, we are going to transfer it over to a baking tray. Now I've lined the baking tray with some tin foil. Once I've transferred, I'm going to make sure I put the fat side down to make sure that renders properly. Lay that there, and then we're going to cover it with a nice piece of tin foil and seal in all that area so it creates an oven within an oven. Before I started, I also preheated my oven to 130 degrees Celsius. With this size of meat, because it's 4 pounds, it's going to take 4 hours because it's an hour per pound of meat cooking time. I've now placed a nice piece of tin foil over the top of the brisket and it is ready to transfer to the oven. Okay, and at this stage we place in the oven. Okay, so at this stage we've got some very basic barbecue sauce. Doesn't matter what it is, can be off-brand, whatever. Just as your base. So we put it on the stove. We're going to put it on a very, very low heat. Don't want it sticking to the bottom of the pan and burning. So what we're going to do, add a little bit of salt to it, just a little bit. A little bit of pepper for a bit of heat in it. A little mix in. And a little bit of Dijon mustard, just a tiny bit to give it a bit of a kick, so it's not a bit boring. So we're getting a bit of spice into the sauce. So give it a nice mix. Turn it in all the time, making sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan while we've got the heat. I'm also going to add a slight bit of paprika. Yet again, add into the heat. I'm going to turn that in. Give it a nice stir. And now that is ready for when the brisket comes out the oven. It'll be a nice little serving to the side. So the brisket's been in roughly 2.5 hours. So we're at the stage where we're going to get it out and check where we're up to with it. So I'm going to bring it out of the oven now. And this is the stage where my daughter likes to get involved to see where we're up to. You like to come and see where we're up to. So we're getting a nice flavouring on it. And we're going to flip it now to get the other side on top, which is the fatty side, so we get a nice render finishing it off without the tin foil on top. So we're going to pick that up. Yeah, and you want to climb. Is that nice? Good. We're going to give it a nice flip over. So at this stage we're going to flip over our meat. It should be too hot, so you should be able to handle it. It's only been at about 135 degrees Celsius. So yeah, we've got a nice render so far on the meat. We just need to finish it off. When you're flipping it and you're holding it with tongs, it should feel like it's going to break when it's done. And at this stage, it's still quite bouncy. So we've still got a fair bit left to go. But now I'm going to remove the tin foil because I feel like we've got a good temperature inside. And now we're going to return to the oven for another 2.5 hours. Okay, so brisket's been in the oven for a good 4.5 hours now. You can keep it in a bit longer if you need to, if you don't think it's done yet, but I think mine's ready, so I'm going to bring it out now. Oh, that's looking good. Got a nice crisp layer on the outside. So, going to now transfer it onto a chopping board. Looking brilliant. Yeah. So, as I was saying before, it's got to feel like it's just about to break, and that hasn't got much flop in it. You can feel it's cooked through. So now it's on there. I'm going to leave it for at least half an hour to rest, to make sure you're holding in all those juices. And my recommendation is don't go cutting it until you're ready to serve it, because as soon as you do that, you're letting all that moisture out. Okay, so we're at the final stage. We've left it to rest for at least half an hour. As you can tell, it's completely done. There's a few juices that have come out, but we've kept most of those in by not cutting it yet. I'm ready to serve. So to start with, there's a slight piece just on this edge here. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to use that for burnt ends, which I'll show you in another video. But that's always a good piece to keep for that sort of work, because it's so thin, it just makes some really nice pieces. So we'll take that off and remove that for another time. So as we're cutting in, I'm going to do some nice slices. As you can see, we've got a nice layer there. You don't get your smoke layer that you get from using a smoker, but hopefully we've gotten the nice flavours from all the herbs and spices we've used. Make sure you're using a nice sharp knife to do this. If you're not, you're just going to absolutely ruin your meat. And that's it for this video. Hope you enjoy and try it yourself. And thank you from Andrew's Kitchen.